Today I want to talk with everybody about 5 things I have learned by sparring with boxers. This has been a massive part of my training for my kickboxing fights, and it has been so valuable to me to become a better athlete. So all these tips coming right up after the intro. So thinking back, I want to say the first time that we ever really dialed in on just strictly going to do sparring rounds against guys who are only boxers was the prep for my first professional fight. My dad called up the local boxing club and went, "Gabriel, I'm taking you over there and you have to do rounds with these guys. You have to get your hands on point because now that you're fighting professionally, you need to take your training to the next level. You need to take it very seriously." And of course I was already taking it seriously, but we never prioritized the hands. And at some point in my career, and up until this point, I was still relying strongly on my legs to win fights. My hands had dramatically improved since I used to strictly do karate, but still I did not have hands that were spectacular. So going and doing the boxing rounds really helped me elevate to the next level, and I learned a lot from it. So let's move into the first thing I learned, which was everybody is vulnerable to body shots. I thought perhaps that my left body shot was landing a lot because I was going up against kickboxers or Muay Thai fighters who keep their hands either up here or up here. And I thought maybe that if I went against the boxers, I sparred against these guys who focus just on hands, that they would have their elbows really tight and I would not land the body shot in the same way with the same success I usually had. But that was not the case, and I started landing it and it just kept landing against these guys who only focused on these 2 weapons, and I went, wow. These really work. Attacking the body really works, and it does not just work against guys who are used to dealing with kicks as well. Never neglect your body shots. Now, obviously, it's not just as simple as me stepping in, throwing a couple shots high, and then ripping down low. There's more to it than that. And if somebody has a basic game plan like, oh, we're just going to attack the body, and that's the only game plan, well, that's not great. You need more than that. But it was something that really helped me. This whole experience helped me learn that I need to have more faith in those body shots of mine and really start letting them rip in my fights. The next thing I learned, and this was actually from 2 guys in particular that I sparred against. One guy was local, and then one guy was somebody from Ireland. And I can't remember his name right now, but he's actually a professional world champion at this point. Anyway, when I sparred with these 2 guys, I learned that the pull of the head and the counterback cross is deadly. Now, this was not because I was doing it, it's because they were doing it to me. When I would let my jab go, I was usually used to, throwing the jab out, pulling it back, and having time to get defensive. But these guys, as I would jab, would pull just out of range, and then they'd fire back the cross over top my jab. Happened about 3 or 4 times when I sparred these guys, and then I had to realize that just sending the jab straight out is not working, and I had to make an adjustment because had I kept throwing it and throwing it and throwing it, eventually I would have just got dummied. And that was a real eye-opener to me, just how effective this is. Now we see guys like Conor McGregor use it just to perfection. Pull and snap back, pull and snap back. But sometimes seeing people do it on TV is much different than actually realizing how effective it is when somebody's utilizing it against you. If you guys have not already worked this, it's definitely something to add in if you've got that fast reflex pullback and you feel comfortable understanding distance. And that's the main thing. If I know that the punch is going to come to here, I don't need to move. If I know it's going to come way through, then the pullback is not a good idea. But if I understand range and I know the punch is going to come about that far through, like we're talking a few inches, and I can pull out of the way, and then in addition to that, I'm super fast at pulling back in and throwing the counter. This is something that you want to start adding in because it is a scary, effective technique. The next thing I learned when I was boxing was you need to be thinking defensively even when you're being offensive. And what I mean by that is very often when I was sparring with kickboxers, it was kind of my turn, back away, their turn, my turn, their turn. But when I started boxing, I started realizing that as soon as you throw, somebody can snap the counter in. and the guys who just focus on hands were that much better at countering back to the head. So I can't step in and go jab, cross, hook, cross, and just throw the combo and not think defensively. I need to step in and go jab, head off the center line, cross, other hand super tight, hook, chin buried down, cross, shoulder and hand up, and really be thinking as I'm being offensive that the defense is still a priority. I learned this in boxing during those sparring rounds, and it got reinforced so much that now whenever I do anything, shadow boxing even, bag work, when I'm doing solo work where nothing can punch back at me, I'm still thinking defensively during what would normally be simply offensive rounds. The next thing I learned, which is something my dad tried to reinforce in me a lot during my amateur career, but I didn't really register it or believe it until I got to do these boxing sparring rounds, was if you throw a combination, something will land. And very often in the past in my fights, single shot, or even small combo, 1-2, single shot, 1-2, and you're not landing, or maybe you land some. But if you're ever getting frustrated and you're going, I need to land a shot, I just want to put some leather on this guy, combo up. And once I started doing these boxing rounds and I started committing, especially when my dad was cornering me during the sparring rounds, he'd just be like, combo, and I'd jump in and I'd throw a big combo, something would land. And when you're trying to breach that gap between being unconfident in your hands and then building that confidence and really feeling like you can let shots go and you can be successful, this is one of the big gaps that people have. They don't let the combos go. I notice this very often when I spar with people and they're a little hesitant with me and they throw single shots or maybe doubles and I block them all. But if they combo up, they'll land on me and I'll tell them, I'll go, that's what you need to do. You need to combo up. Now, just like the point we mentioned previously, if you're going to go for long combos, you still have to think defensively. So don't forget that. And the final point that I want to mention today on things I learned from putting in those sparring rounds with boxers is people don't like pressure. Earlier in the video, I mentioned how the guys were really good at the pull and the counter, and they were landing on me. And when I started sparring these guys, I went, shoot, me fighting at this range is just not working. They're gonna outskill me, what can I do? So I went, all right, instead of running or instead of fighting at this range, I'm fighting at this range. And I'm gonna pressure them and I'm gonna put their back up against the ring ropes. And the two guys who early in the round were pulling and countering me and getting the better of me, I reversed it and I put the pressure on them. And this really reinforced, it doesn't matter what sport, boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, they don't like pressure. And if you are somebody who can crowd the distance and engage in some of that dirty boxing, shove people up against the ring ropes, keep them there, throw some shots, rip down to the body, make life uncomfortable for them when they're used to utilizing nice, crisp technique, you're going to have success. And you're going to realize very quickly that most people don't like that pressure, and it's something to be utilized, and it's something that can help you be very successful in sparring rounds or in fights if you're in the ring competing. And that's everything that I learned from putting in those rounds with the boxers. If you guys have not already done this, if you are somebody who's competing in Muay Thai, kickboxing, MMA, and you have not ventured into the boxing ring for sparring rounds, you are missing out. You are not improving as much as you could. I'm a testament to how much this works. My dad made me do it, and I'm so glad he did. And now even still in my career, I go in and do strict boxing rounds. And I will be sure, if you guys want it, in my next training camp, to take some footage of me going and sparring with the boxers and sharing it with you just so you can see exactly what I get up to, what I'm doing, how hard the sparring is, everything. So if you want to see that, drop it in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you have not already, join the channel, get subscribed. Train hard, guys. I'll see you back here soon for another video.